right, time for the roller coaster review. Yukon Striker. Man, this was fun. So Yukon Striker, if you haven't heard of it, which I'm sure you have, if you've been anywhere on social media over the last 8 months or so, you've seen the animations of this thing, and by now you've seen the POV and the ride video and all that good stuff. But it is a B&M dive coaster, 245 feet on the drop, coming off of this thing, 90 degrees straight down. You hit a top speed of 80 miles an hour. Now, if you haven't been on a B&M dive coaster before, let me explain what this is a little bit. So it's a little bit different, where the trains, normal roller coaster trains are pretty long, right? This one is only 3 rows deep. It's only 3 rows, but the rows are 8 seats across. So you can imagine having 8 bodies across. The track on this is gigantic. It's a really wide track. And B&M track is already pretty wide to begin with, but on these dive coasters, it's really wide. But what's really neat, like other B&M dive coasters, is if you're on the ends of the train, you're hanging off the side of the track. And that's significant because these are floorless trains. So when you board the train, right, you walk up like any roller coaster, you sit in your seat, the floor drops away. So when you're looking down at your feet, you see whatever's below there. So if you're over the track, then yeah, you're going to see the track right under your feet. But if you're on the sides, which is where I recommend sitting, you don't see anything underneath you. That's just air. So you're kind of just hanging out there on this thing. And so you're going up the dive coaster. The other cool thing about it with the 3 rows, as I mentioned, in my opinion, this is a front seat ride because it's all about the drop, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. I know some people like the back on these. And the cool thing about that, if you are a backseat rider, they have stadium-style seating on the coaster. So if you're in the second row, yes, you're looking at the row in front of you. You are looking at the backs of the seats that are in front of you, but the second row is a little bit higher from the first row. So you can see over everybody that's there, okay? And if you're in the third row, you can see a little bit over the second row, which is cool. So you're still getting that pull from the back of the train, right? But you're not completely blind to everything that's happening in front of you. What I love about dive coasters and why I think they're kind of unique for each individual place, when you get to the top of the hill, everything slows down. It's a crawled pace when you get up there and you take this little jog around. So you loop around a little bit. So you're up there and you're flat and you slowly move around to where the drop is. And what's cool about this is I've never been to Canada's Wonderland. This is my first time at Canada's Wonderland. So you can really take in. It's almost like you're on an observation deck over the park. Because think about most roller coasters when you go up the lift hill and you go to the top, you get to the top and you hang a little bit and then you go. This ride, you get up there and you take a little journey around a little bit. Like, all right, I'm going to cruise around the side here until I get to the drop. And that gives you an opportunity to kind of catch your breath, look around, and there's Leviathan. Oh, there's the cool Canada's Wonderland mountain thing. There's Vortex, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But you really get to look around the park and see, like, wow, this is a really cool place. And I think with this other element, which was really great, and I think what separates Yukon Striker out is, one, the drop. The drop is ridiculous. It is 90 degrees straight down, 245 feet. But when you look, and this is the cool thing about the dive coasters, right, is when you get to the edge, you pull to the edge, and the ride creeps over the edge, and then it stops. And I feel like this ride stops longer than Valraven stops, which is the only other dive coaster I've been on. But this one stops longer. You're really hanging there longer, and you really get to take in that drop. And at the bottom of the drop is water and a tunnel that looks way too bleeping small to fit this gigantic train that you're in. How am I going to fit in that hole there in that tunnel? But what's really cool is that there's another ride there, a roller coaster called Vortex, and they built this so the first drop goes right in between that other coaster. So if you think about it, when the park's open and Vortex is running, you could be going down as Vortex loops around, which is it's incredible. And that drop, when you when you finally do drop, it takes your breath away every time. And that's why when people see the POV of this and they say, man, you know, I've been on a dive coaster before. You've been on them all. No, no. It's one of those things that the video does not do it justice. You have to go up there and you have to hang there and you got to feel it. And everybody, watch the people. It's great people watching too, because where they put this is right next to a walkway. You can stand right next to that tunnel, right on the other side of the fence, and watch people's faces as they're hanging over the edge, and then see their faces as they're coming out of that tunnel and hitting that first Immelman maneuver, which is awesome. And where it is another really high point of this ride. It also has a full vertical loop, straight up traditional loop, which is pretty neat. First time that's been done on a dive coaster. There's a Helix at the end of the ride, which, you know, I've been on a Helix before. But what's cool about it, again, is where they put the Helix. So when you're at the end of this thing, you're cruising around that Helix, and you see all these people underneath. There's like a gathering area right there where people can stand right under the train, and you can wave to your friends or whoever's on the ride. It's a great ride. It's a fantastic ride, and I know I heard from a lot of enthusiasts who were like, well, is it just Valraven and a little bit plus? No, it's got its own unique feel to it. The elements are great. The ride is really long, and to me, it's all about the drop. It's all about that front seat on the edge, hanging out, nothing below you, looking down at that drop and hitting it. So here's what it sounded like with me on the coaster. You can also see this on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. So, all right, here we go. Here's my full ride on Yukon Striker. Now, this is the best part of the dive coaster. You come to the edge here, and it is going to stop, and then it is going to show us this ridiculous view down into an underwater tunnel. And that tunnel looks way too small to fit this thing in it. Oh boy. Woo! 90 degrees straight down. We are going 80 miles an hour. That tunnel's too small. Into an Immelman maneuver. Woo! And then from here, we're going to hit a 270 degree floating roll. Pure weightlessness. That's incredible. And then the first on a dive coaster, a full vertical loop. Woo! And then not one Immelman, but you got two Immelman for the price of one. Oh! And you would think that that was good enough. But it isn't, because we're going to go to the edge, and we're going to dive one more time. This is like a mini little dive here. You ready? Whee! And then this is really fun. You got a Helix at the end of the ride, and you can see all the people down there. Hi, people! Whee! Oh, that is special. Don't forget to subscribe to my podcast. It's the Coast in the Country podcast. It's available where all podcasts are downloaded. You've got Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere. That's where you can find it. You can subscribe. Please leave a rating as well, and get in touch with me. You can do that at marcusleshock.com or any of my social channels. I appreciate each and every one of you watching, and download the podcast and subscribe. Thanks again. See you later.